Congrats and welcome to the Budget Mastery Pack. I'm really excited that you're here and that we get to work together and that we get to take a look at your finances and know that finances are in fact empowering and exciting and an opportunity to really take your financial situation and of course your life to a whole nother level. So I'm glad that you're here. So I want to share with you that we've got 8 downloadables for you to print, reprint, scribble on, share, use, and really perfect so that you can get on top of your finances. Now, one of the things you really will realize is when you're getting started and you're not used to looking at your finances with such scrutiny on a regular basis, you may find that this feels like a little bit of work, but know that it's just about changing your mindset. It's about recognizing how much money you actually make and figuring out where and how you're going to allocate it so that you can be in the best financial situation, not have to worry, and sleep at night. Now, what I recommend is that you check in with these frequently. So some of the documents you're going to look at a daily basis, or maybe fold it up and put it in your pocket or in your folder, or some of the others you probably need to check in maybe just a couple of times a week. Now, what I can tell you that as you progress on this journey, and don't worry if it feels a little overwhelming, it's gonna get much easier and much simpler. And you won't need to put as much time and energy as thought, but know that when your intention is to be in the best financial situation, this is gonna make this whole process fun and exciting. And think about it as you get to organize your finances, you get to be proactive, you get to be in a place where you feel great about your money rather than feeling like it's a burden or something that you've got to trudge through. So with that, why don't we jump right into all of the documents and I'll walk you through exactly what you need to do for each one. The first document that you're going to want to open is the financial goal setting sheet. Now, this is important because if we don't actually know where we're going, how do we understand whether or not we're taking steps in that direction? So what you'll see here is that on the goal setting sheet, you've got at the top and at the bottom, so 2 goals, but you can print it up as many times as you want. And you have an opportunity to fill it out by saying, what in fact are the goals that you have? Is it a life goal like going on a vacation, or is it a personal goal like meeting a certain amount of money that you've got in your savings account? Regardless as if that goal is already a predetermined financial goal or it's something you want to achieve in your life, when you write it out, when you put it on paper, when you've declared it to the world, you're going to feel a lot better about taking steps to get there. You'll notice that for each goal, you can outline what the financial success is, what are the action items you're going to take, what's the time frame you're going to recognize that in, and what are some of the steps that you're going to take. Now, of course, if you don't have enough space there, you can flip it over to the back, but really the more emphasis you put on figuring out how you're going to get to that goal, the more likely you are to actually get to that goal. So if this is something that you've never done before, maybe take this form or this sheet and have a little date with yourself. Maybe you're sitting at the kitchen table or outside on a patio and you've got a coffee or a delicious snack, and really take some time for yourself to think about what are your financial goals and fill them out, because you'll be much more likely to reach those financial goals. We're also starting on a very positive note, and knowing where it is that you want to go is probably going to make the whole budgeting process a whole lot easier, because what people don't really realize is that budgeting is actually just a trade-off. It's a decision that I would rather go to a fancy gym than go out for dinner, or I'd rather go out for drinks with my friends 3 times a week and make my own lunch. So it really gives you an opportunity to think about what are the elements that are important to you, hence your goals, be it small goals like I'm gonna go out for dinner with my friends once a week, or larger goals, I'm gonna go on a vacation to Hawaii next year. The second sheet is the monthly budgeting sheet. Now, what you may be surprised to recognize when you take a look at this, that the first thing you need to do when considering putting together a budget is figuring out how much money you make. You want to recognize how much money is coming in the door and then be able to determine from there how much money you have to allocate, which is why at the top section you will see your income, where you may have multiple streams of income already, and so there's a couple line items on there for you, Or you can always flip it over to the back of the sheet if you've got more than the number allotted, which would be amazing. But what you do is identify how much money in fact is coming in the door, and that is after-tax dollars. So that's the amount of money that actually ends up in your bank account, not necessarily the amount that you see on, a salary one-pager where you've got a bit of an overview, but exactly how much money is coming into your bank account. Then right below that, you'll notice that there's actually a savings section. And I put that there because I think that putting money aside for yourself is really, really critical. You want to make sure that you put money aside for yourself to save first before you end up in a situation that you pay all of your expenses, because if you cover all your expenses first, you'll likely find that there won't be money left over after the fact. So always pay yourself first. Now, the one exception I would say is if you have a lot of debt and you're paying high interest, you want to make sure that you knock those out first, and we'll get to the debt sheets as well a little bit later. But what you want to do is have your income minus your savings, and whatever money is left over, that's what's going to cover all of your expenses. Now, below that in the expense section is where you'll start to outline what in fact are all of your expenses every single month, or you could do it on a much micro level if you wanted to do it on a daily basis if you find you're pulling your wallet out. Now, with all of these elements, you will find that there is both the budget amount and the actual amount, and that's so that you can actually compare the difference. You can outline what you're expecting to spend in a certain category, and then at the end of the month, you can put how much money you actually spent there. Now, sometimes you may find you'll go over and sometimes you'll go under, and that's where you have a little bit of flexibility from a month-to-month standpoint to be able to just really recognize and identify what in fact is that wiggle room. What are the things that you're actually trading off? Maybe, like I said, you've made your lunch instead of going out for lunch, and you've got that extra money for going out or for shopping or for maybe saving for something that's a bigger goal that you have in your life. So you've got the monthly budget tracking sheet. Again, if you are going to track every single item that you're spending, which may be a good idea depending on where you are in your spending journey, you can always flip the piece of paper over and just jot them down and put kind of the category totals on the front section. But this is really meant to guide you and ensure that up front you're spending some time to say, okay, how much money do I actually have? Where do I want to allocate it? And then of course, check in later in the month to see how you actually did. Now, you can make this process fun and exciting. Grab some colored markers, grab some pens, and color coordinate if that makes it more fun. But just really make this fun and exciting, and don't be upset with yourself, and don't penalize yourself. It's really about tracking where the money is going. And the other thing to keep in mind is that the good thing about tracking your budget on a monthly standpoint or a monthly basis is that every month is a new month to be able to begin again. So if a month doesn't go over too well, that's where you got the next month to keep going. And if you're doing well and you're saving money and you're putting money aside every month, it's just going to snowball in terms of how much positivity you have, how much money you've got in your savings, and that's going to make you feel really good about yourself. Next up, we have got the expense tracker. Now, some of these may feel like they're a bit redundant, but they actually have a very specific role to play. Now, the expense tracker is really intended to help you with your budgeting itself, in the sense that there are some expenses that you've got every single month. Maybe you've got your rent or mortgage or a car payment or insurance or whatever the case may be, and outlining what those expenses are in advance will also help you to understand how much wiggle room you've got in your budget for the things where maybe you've got a little bit more flexibility. So let's say buying clothes or going out for dinner is an element that's flexible. Paying your rent, non-negotiable, right? So when you use the expense tracker, it's really easy to see what are your main costs that you have every single month. And I would recommend that you put in expenses that have a fixed dollar or that you know in advance. So, your groceries is something that you want to put into your budget, but your expense trackers, things like I said, your car payments, your insurance, your rent, your mortgage, anything that's a fixed payment that you know is coming. And I'd also encourage you to include things that are really core to your living. So, if you've got a fancy yoga subscription and you pay $150 a month, while you know what that cost is going to be up front, I would suggest that maybe you put it either at the bottom of the expense tracker or just add it in your budget, because while it may feel like a non-negotiable for you today, as you're looking at your budget, maybe there's an opportunity to go to a different yoga center or get a different package, or even do yoga in the park with your friends. So when you're getting your budget on track, your expenses, or the critical ones that should be going into this expense tracker, are the absolute hardcore non-negotiable ones that are going to be recurring on a monthly basis, and then you know exactly what those are, and you can overlay the monthly budget on top of that. The next document is the debt repayment tracker, because sometimes debt happens. And if you're in a situation where you've got some debt, don't be upset with yourself, but let's make an action plan to move forward. If you're someone who doesn't have any debt, well, don't worry too much about this document and you can just skip over to the next one. But if you have debt, know that that is really, really serious, and it means that you have in the past spent money that you don't have, or you've spent money that you are not making. And not only is that not necessarily a good habit to have going forward, because it won't help you build your financially fabulous future, but you're also in some respect throwing good hard-earned money into the garbage because of your interest rates. So, if you are in debt, take a deep breath, and then we're gonna really embrace this sheet where you fill out all of the debt you have, who you owe the money to. Very important for you to figure out what is the interest rate. If you don't know the interest rate, you can take a look at your statements, or you can call the financial institution. Now this includes money that you owe on a credit card or line of credit, or even to your parents, anyone that you may owe money to. And I recommend that once you've got it all outlined and you figure out what are the minimum monthly payments for all of them, you have a bit of an action plan to be able to figure out how you're going to pay off that debt and which piece of debt you're going to pay off. So, and that's one about first, right? So if you've got debt that's at a very high interest, I recommend that you start with paying off the high interest debt first. So if you've got, credit card at 19% and a line of credit at 6 or 7%, the debt that you have on your credit card is of course more expensive because you've got a higher interest rate. Now, there's another method that some people would recommend in terms of paying off debt, which is if you've got money owing to 3 different locations or financial institutions, try to knock off the one that's the smallest amount first, because if your smallest amount is paid off and now you only owe money to 2 financial institutions instead of 3, that may make you feel a whole lot better. So it's really up to you which way you want to do it. Again, I always recommend that you do it in the time or in the format where you've got the highest interest rate first, because that is in fact costing you the most money, and you want to make sure that you get that paid off as quickly as possible. Now you'll notice here on the sheet there's both a total for all of your debt, and there's also a little bit of a strategy at the bottom where you can fill out your action plan in terms of what in fact you're going to do to get rid of this debt. Again, remember, if you are paying off debt, this is a temporary thing. You're not going to be in debt for the rest of your life, and taking a little bit of extra money and allocating it towards paying off your debt is really the responsible thing to do. And not only that, it's going to put you in a situation where you're less stressed, you're not worried about your finances, you can start to build up your savings and start to invest and build up your nest egg, and that can really help you to sleep at night. So if debt is in your life, you want to make sure that this particular sheet is of a high priority to you, and that as you're putting money into your monthly budget, you are putting a significant amount of money aside, not just your minimum payments, to knock that debt out of the park and get it out of your life. Next up is the automatic payments tracker. Now, you may be making your life a lot easier by having some of your bills paid automatically. So some typical ones are like your hydro or a mortgage payment, and a lot of financial institutions as well as a lot of providers allow you to do this. Cell phone's another very popular one. And so this is just a sheet to help you outline exactly what's being connected, what's being paid off for you, so you don't actually have to worry about it. Of course, it's part of your budget because this is money that's coming out of your account, but you don't have to go in and make these actual transactions. So if you've got an automatic transaction set up, let's say for your hydro, it will just get paid every single month. But even if you decide that you're going to do this, if you've got something that's fluctuating like a cell phone or your internet or your TV, well, maybe not so much your TV, but your cell phone, you can go over your data and it can be significantly higher. Same thing with your internet if you don't have an unlimited plan. And so even though these are elements that are automatic, you are going to want to check in on them and make sure that the bills are in fact correct and that you're not being overcharged or that there's any unforeseen issues. But outlining all of your automatic payments in this document will allow you to breathe easy. And if this is something that you really like to kind of make your finances hassle and stress-free, well, try to make as many of your bills as possible automatic. Just make sure that you know what day the bill is being paid and the money's coming out of your account, and that it in fact aligns to when you are getting paid, because you don't want to end up in a situation where you're in overdraft because your paycheck hasn't come in, and if it wasn't automatic, you'd still have a few days to be able to process that payment. So this allows you to see what's automatic. If you like automatic, awesome. Make sure that you do more of them. Just keep an eye on them and ensure that the numbers are not fluctuating too much and that you make sure there's no mistakes in the bills. So hopefully this is one that's easy for you to fill out and will help keep things in check for you. Next up is bill payments. Now you will notice that on the bill payments tracking, there's actually two different sheets. One that's kind of a checklist, and this one will allow you to track for an entire year. And it's more just about, did I pay the bill or did I not pay the bill? Now, this for me is probably one of the most important documents because I want to make sure that I've always got my bills paid. I don't want to pay interest. I don't want to be late. I don't want to have any issues impacting my credit. And so with the checklist, it allows you to say, yep, it's been paid, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore. It's also got an element or a checklist where you can add in whether or not it's automated. So this links in with the document that we just completed. The second bill payment sheet or printable is really where you can add more information. So, what was the amount? Did you make the payment? What was the date? Were there any notes? Are you expecting any credits next time? And this one's just a little bit more detailed. So based on whether or not you do things in an automatic fashion, or if you want to print out one of these sheets for every single bill that you need to pay and you just check in every single month and update it that way. Honestly, whichever way you want to do it is totally fine. I just created two formats for you based on your individual preferences, but now regardless of which of the two you use, or if you use the two in conjunction, you're gonna feel great when you know that your bills are paid, and you're not gonna wake up in the middle of the night saying, what, did I make that payment? And you'll know that it's in fact been taken care of. You won't have to worry about any late fees, and you'll know that you're on track with your budget. Next up is the charitable donation log sheet, and this is really just a place for you to update when you make any donations. One of the things that is really critical when it comes to donations is making sure that you get receipts. Now, sometimes when you give a donation, you get the receipt right away. Sometimes they wait until the following calendar year when they get to kind of close to the tax write-off. And so this is one of the most important elements to track, because donations actually have a tax benefit. So when you are filing your taxes, whether you're doing it by yourself or you're working with an accountant, then you can provide them with those receipts. And keeping track of the receipts themselves and did you receive them or are you still waiting for them will help you to keep this all nice and organized and make sure that when you file your taxes, you do in fact get the credit and you get compensated for the donations that you are giving. Now, the last sheet is financial notes, and this is really just a spot for you to jot down any notes, maybe jot down any goals, jot down any conversations that you've had, let's say with a cell provider or a promotion, or what your credit card provider said, or maybe there is a special offer that you're partaking in, or whatever the case may be. This allows you to in fact jot down all of your notes, put down all of your thoughts, and really kind of tie this all together. Now, of course, you've got all of these sheets. You can print them as many times as you want, and you can of course use them in any way that you like. Now, you may find there are certain elements that really resonate with you that you really want to stick to, which is awesome. If there's other sheets that perhaps are less useful, don't worry about needing to use every single sheet. I just wanted to give you all of your options to make sure that on a monthly basis, you're doing a really good job with managing your finances, managing your bills, knowing how much money is going out the door, and really just having peace of mind. Now, if budgeting or managing your money very closely is something that's new to you, well, first of all, congratulations that you've taken this step, and really just take it one step at a time. Don't feel overwhelmed. Starting by looking at how much money you have and starting to create a plan for that money is really going to make you feel a whole lot better. And also recognize that budgeting does get easier. You know, in the beginning, when you're not familiar with it, you may want to write down every single thing. But once you've been doing this for a number of months, you'll get a bit of a better sense. Oh, groceries. I have $300 allocated for groceries. And then, you know, when you go to the grocery store, you'll start to get into a little bit of a more comfortable stride, knowing, oh, I have a little bit of money left in my budget or a lot of money left in my budget for that. Also, the other thing to keep in mind is really don't be too hard on yourself, and recognize that budgeting is really just about trading and making balances. So, you know, if you've gone a little bit over in one category or 1 month, know that you have the opportunity, of course, to make that up in another month or another category. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you know, when you make more money, budgeting actually gets a whole lot easier because you'll have more to play with as long as you already mastered the skill of trade-offs, and it will in fact allow you to, you know, move forward with your finances, achieve your life goals, and feel really financially fabulous in the process. So thank you again for watching this video. Congratulations on taking a huge step forward. And I actually want to reward you by letting you know that, in fact, if you go over to youtube.com/Limor, I have got actually almost 100 videos there for you. Everything on tips for paying off your debt, tips for saving, tips for budgeting, tips for budgeting as a couple, talking to your partner about money. There are tons of subjects there, and if you've got questions or comments, you can always leave them in the comments below on those videos. I also create videos on a very regular basis based on your questions and your requests. So make sure to let me know what that is that you're looking for. Again, that's youtube.com/Limor, and I look forward to hearing about your success and your financially fabulous journey.